Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Avengers issue 17, and this was a pretty good conclusion to this Vampire Civil War arc. And the thing is, it concludes it, but we've also got seeds for things to continue on later, so I hope that those are picked up at some point. So we start off and we see the aftermath of the Red Widow's interrogation of Dracula, him saying that he's told her everything, and that they're like, okay, yeah, we'll put you some place nice and quiet and all that kind of stuff. And we shift over and we see that he's put into Chernobyl. And that makes sense because you would think it would be like, if not a death sentence for him, at least you're thinking, ha ha ha, I got it over on you. But the thing is, you don't really have that many eyes in Chernobyl, so you don't know what he's going to be doing. And that really factors in later on. So we shift over, we see most of the bulk of the issue taking care of the whole prison situation with the vampires taking over. We see Captain Marvel and Thor kind of providing support at first, as we see that the Shadow Colonel and his forces are trying to get at the Red Widow to get information about Dracula's whereabouts. That's, of course, where Blade busts in, saying Avengers assemble, as they start taking on each of the Legion. And he just starts going through and like talking about certain things in certain panels about him being a daywalker and dealing with vampires and how the Avengers aren't really vampire hunters and that T'Challa is still trying to find a cure. He's trying to appeal to Snow Snake's sense of honor and everything like that and trying to like find cures for vampires, whereas Blade is like, yeah, the only cure is pretty much a steady hand, a stake, and the stomach to do what needs to be done. And we see that each one's kind of like lining up with certain members of the Legion, and that boom, we see Sarge gets taken out. Well, not taken out, but Thori comes in and starts fighting him. Now, granted, there's not a bulk of Thori fighting Sarge in the issue, but that it's pretty cool enough just to see them at least go off screen and do their shit. And it's like, all right. Then we get the kind of big battle of Blade versus the Shadow Colonel, and this was pretty well done. We see them, Shadow Colonel's just pretty much done with Blade, and Blade's like, I'm just taking you out. And they start fighting and everything, and Blade takes off his foot, and Shadow Colonel starts getting really pissed off, talking about how he's a pure-blooded vampire and everything, and blasting Blade with these eye beams. I'm like, okay, that's a pretty cool trick to have handy. But they don't really do that much damage to Blade to begin with. So it's like, okay, they're pretty evenly matched. And it's just kind of a knockdown, drag-out fight. He's able to chop off one of the Shadow Colonel's arms and is able to have the boy thing in his grasp. Blade does get injured in his hand before that comes up, though. And he's pretty much getting ready to go after the Shadow Colonel, but he gets one-upped by the Shadow Colonel and put in like a pretty compromising position, and he's pretty much using his severed arm to draw towards Blade's sword, so that way he can kill him with his sword. But of course, Robbie then comes out of nowhere, punches him, and is like, hey, yeah, we got you guys screwed. That was for making me hurt my friends. And Blade then has Boy Thing and has... It's really kind of cool. I feel sorry for Boy Thing because he's used as kind of like a... At first, stakes for a minigun, and then now he's like on Blade's back and has these giant stake things. He's like, eh, no, we're not taking him in. And Blade chops off the Shadow Colonel's head. It's like, damn. T'Challa, of course, is not happy about this. It says, we'll talk about it at the mountain. He's like, well, I guess I'm not an Avenger anymore because... Well, then he's like, we'll discuss this at the mountain. But of course... She-Hulk has been having to deal with the rat bomber guy, and she's like covered in rats and accidentally lets loose a gamma explosion. And the only part, that's the part that kind of confused me. Not so much that she had the power of a gamma explosion, it's just it went from her getting ready to do that to the cloud, and we only see that Tony is helping Steve fly away, but we see T'Challa and the rest of the group kind of there, talking about how the rest of the Legion had got away, but that they still had Sarge. And, of course, T'Challa and Steve and some other people are talking about what's going on with the vampires at the end. And I'm like, are we sure this is the end of it? It's like, well, we've got our person to see with Sarge, and he's like, I'm gonna fight all your faces off and everything. But we then shift over and we see that we get to Chernobyl, and evidently the Shadow Colonel was the son of Dracula, and this was all played out, and he's like, hey, welcome to the Kingdom of the Vampires, and he had done this to get a new seat of power. And that's a pretty smart Dracula move, and he played it well. I mean, the Winter Guard are going to have their hands full once Dracula is able to consolidate his power and to seat there and get his strength back with his Legion now, because, of course, the rest of the Legion said, hey, your son deserves a seat here, but he tosses the head kind of back, and Shadow Colonel's pretty screwed up, so we'll have to see if that plays out later on, if the Shadow Colonel is dead, or if he gets kind of back together and decides, screw this, and partners up with the Avengers to take on the threat of a new vampire kingdom. So, we had also got at the end of this that Robbie wanted help with exercising his card from Blade, and Blade's like, oh, I really shouldn't have stayed here, should I? And we get another little tidbit of Johnny Blaze saying, hey, no, we're commenting on Robbie coming home, and it's like, ooh, that's interesting. We'll have to see how that goes. I'm really glad that that part was used in this, and we've got at least a checkup on Johnny Blaze as being the King of Hell, and he's probably going to have to be useful when Mephisto bursts out and we have to deal with him at some point. So I liked how this was done and how it was a global kind of conflict with these vampires, and that it set up a kind of new status quo for Dracula, and that we got this done and we're ready for the War of the Realms when that pops off. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.